This is the story of 18-year-old Jessica Patrick-Balczer, a young mother with big dreams, whose life was tragically cut short along one of Canada's most notorious roads, the Highway of Tears. Jessica Patrick-Balczer was born on January 8, 2000. A proud member of the Lake Babine First Nation, she grew up in Fort Babine, British Columbia, about 100 kilometers north of Smithers. Her early years were far from easy, with her parents struggling with substance abuse and the weight of intergenerational trauma. Jessica spent much of her childhood in and out of foster care. At 14, things seemed to take a hopeful turn when she was placed back in the care of her father, Mike Balczer, who had quit drinking after losing his children. Those who knew Jessica remember her as bubbly and goofy, someone who could brighten any room. She refused to let her personal struggles bring down those around her. Two things brought her joy: makeup and staying connected to her family through social media. At 17, Jessica gave birth to her daughter, Alea. The bond between them was unbreakable. Determined to give her child the stable home she herself never had, Jessica planned to move back in with her father. But just days before the move, she vanished. August 31st, 2018. Jessica dropped Alea off at her grandmother's home, promising she'd be back soon. She was heading to a party at the Mountain View Hotel, just off Highway 16 near Smithers. The night grew rowdy. Police were called to break up a fight. And after that, Jessica was never heard from again. Days passed. Jessica's friends and family couldn't reach her. Her grandmother knew something was wrong. Jessica adored her daughter and would never disappear without a word. On September 3rd, her loved ones reported her missing to the RCMP. But instead of launching an immediate search, investigators dismissed their concerns, suggesting Jessica was probably just out partying. Her family refused to wait. They began searching on their own, covering communities along Highway 16, a stretch so infamous for disappearances and murders of Indigenous women. It's known as the Highway of Tears. It wasn't until 3 days later that the RCMP issued a public statement about her disappearance. They claimed to be conducting multiple searches and securing warrants. On September 15, 2018, the search came to a devastating end. Jessica's aunt decided to check a ski hill on Hudson Bay Mountain, just north of Smithers. She noticed birds circling an area. When she looked over an embankment, she saw a human body lying 15 meters below, near an abandoned washing machine. It was Jessica. She was still wearing the ballerina flats and white tank top from the night she disappeared. The position of her shirt suggested she had been placed there. Jessica's family remains critical of how her case was handled. They believe vital time and evidence were lost because police didn't act sooner. Her story is one of many, part of a heartbreaking pattern of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls across Canada. Jessica Patrick-Balczer was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a loving mother. She deserved a lifetime with her daughter, not an ending along the Highway of Tears. If you have any information about her case, please contact the RCMP. 2 years after Jessica Patrick's death, her family is still searching for answers. Jessica was last seen leaving the Mountain View Motel in Smithers in the early hours of August 31st, 2018. Her body would not be found until September 15th, off Hudson Bay Mountain Road. The case remains unsolved. The RCMP say the investigation is still active and ongoing, but for her family, that assurance rings hollow. Jessica's cousin, Jackie Bowes, doesn't believe police are doing enough. She says communication has been infrequent and unsatisfying. It feels like they are giving us the runaround, Bowes explains. The Major Crime Unit would check in every few months, just enough to tell us Jessica is still first on their list, that they haven't forgotten. But we're tired of hearing that. They say she's a priority, but they seem overwhelmed with other cases. From the start, Bowes told investigators she refused to let the case go cold. They're setting a precedent that allows murderers to get away with it, she warns. Jessica's sister, Kirsten, shares the frustration. I've been trying to call them, but no one is saying anything to me. I'm working on finding out who did it and why. I heard she owed money, but that's all I know, she says. Kirsten misses her sister's laugh, her humor, and simply loving her. I'm pretty heartbroken. I raised her, she adds. Kirsten's husband, Floyd Heisens, also fears the case will be closed without answers. Why aren't they doing anything anymore? It's hard for all of us, not knowing if we will get justice. Bose believes the local detachment didn't take the case seriously from the start. According to Corporal Madonna Saunderson, Jessica was reported missing by her mother and sister on September 3, 2018, at 5:20 p.m. The first media release was issued on September 6, Saunderson explained. She added that between September 3 and September 15, police conducted multiple searches, some under warrant, in an effort to locate Jessica and identify those involved in her disappearance. On September 15th, it was not the RCMP who found Jessica, but her own family. Her body was discovered by a relative near the Hudson Bay Mountain Lookout. Bose says a family member should never have been the one to make that discovery. She believes her family did more investigating than the police. She is also frustrated by the gap between words and action from the federal government. Despite time and money spent on the national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, she sees little change. They need a trained team, Bose says, so as soon as someone goes missing, an investigator is assigned immediately. What we went through to find Jessica was traumatic. We didn't know if we would find her alive or dead. No family should have to go through that. As an Aboriginal community legal worker, Bose now channels her grief into advocacy for Indigenous children in protective care. Jessica herself had been in care, still officially in the Ministry of Children and Family Development's custody, when she died at 18. Even though she was going through so much, she hid it well. She wanted to give her daughter everything she didn't have, Bose remembers. While Jessica's case remains unsolved, her community works to honor the lives lost along Highway 16. The Des Elcont Friendship Center Society secured federal funding for a mural dedicated to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls on Main Street in Smithers. Further down the Highway of Tears, a totem pole now stands, a powerful tribute to Canada's missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. 2 years later, Jessica's family still waits for justice. They still wait for answers, and they refuse to let her case go cold. Jessica was more than a statistic. She was a daughter, a sister, a mother, and she deserved so much more.